The biggest thing with having a lot of stress and a lack of sleep or poor sleep quality is the effect that it has on your appetite. A lot of people will say, oh, it slows your metabolism. Stress doesn't necessarily slow your metabolism. A lack of sleep, poor sleep quality can to a small degree, but it's mostly the fact that these things make it very difficult for you to control your intake.
Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. I am your host, Mary Katherine, and today we have a very special guest. We have Katie Coles, who is the co-founder of Avatar Nutrition and a founding partner of the Fit Body Bootcamp nutrition app. Having written the algorithm used by the Fit Body Nutrition app to make weekly macro adjustments and nutrition recommendations, which all of our clients love so much. In addition to managing the algorithm and adding new features to the app, she creates video content to educate Fit Body coaches on nutrition and best practices for using the app to help our clients in our studios. Katie is a registered dietitian with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and a Master of Science degree in human nutrition. She is a contributing writer at bodybuilding.com and is a former national bikini competitor and collegiate pole vaulter. Super cool. I cannot wait to dive into that. She's also a former fitness model who was featured in the book Strong Curves and Body Weight Strength Training Anatomy, as well as in several magazines, catalogs, and online publications. In addition, Katie has presented nutrition related topics across the country and was a featured speaker at the 2020 Optima Conference for the National Academy of Sports Medicine. So, welcome, Katie, to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad we're finally able to make this happen.
Yeah, me too. And
Mhm.
Katie has had a lot going on. I'm sure she'll share some with our listeners, but she is a new mom. So her life has been crazy lately. And we were just talking, offline about how her baby is 6 months and time just goes by so fast. And I know that now you can relate so much to our clients of how important fitness and nutrition is. But before we get there, I really want to start with your backstory and how you got into the world of helping build a nutrition app.
Yeah, so I mean, it's amazing where life takes you because, I never went to college and was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do, right? Like you said, got my undergrad in biology, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with that. But while I was in college, I was also playing sports and I was obsessed with sports and athletics. I've been an athlete my whole life. Like you were saying, I was a pole vaulter. And I wanted to take that as far as I could. I even started trying to do that professionally after I graduated. Had no idea what I wanted to do with my degree, but I ended up breaking my leg pole vaulting. I had knee surgery after that, and my career was just obviously over. And I wanted to continue to compete, but I wasn't sure how I was going to be able to do that when I couldn't run, right? So I
Right.
continued training in the gym. That was something I was always really into. And one day somebody approached me and they were like, oh my gosh, do you do figure competitions? I was like, what is that? And they were telling me about it. And I thought to myself, here's a way I can compete. I don't even need to run. All I have to do is lift weights and build muscle. And so I was all in and I had really rapid success with that. I won my first show out in Culver City, California, which is the bodybuilding mecca where Arnold Schwarzenegger went when he first came over here and started competing. And I became obsessed with like trying to get super lean and build muscle. And during that process, I actually developed an eating disorder because I wasn't sure how to attain that weight in a healthy, sustainable way. So, you just
Yeah.
did what all bodybuilders did back then was eat the same like 7 or 8 foods over and over and over. You had your list of green vegetables you could have, you had your lean meats and your fish and your chicken, you had your nuts, like almonds, almond butter. And every once in a while, if you were lucky, you might get some oats or a sweet potato as like a
Yeah.
refeed. But I had no idea like how to keep that body, right? Other than continuing to eat only this list of foods, which let's be honest, like you can't do the rest of your life. So I
Right.
would swing like rapidly between over like starving myself, over cutting calories, sticking to this list of foods, feeling guilty if I ever went off of it, binge eating, and then gaining a bunch of weight back. And my validation, my self worth, everything was tied to how I looked and how lean I was. So I was really in a terrible place. I didn't know what moderation was. I wasn't sure how to really get that body and keep it. I knew there had to be a better way. And since I already had my undergrad in biology, I decided to go back to school and get my master's in nutrition. And when I graduated, I came out and I worked immediately in research and development for this nutrition company where I made nutrition products with them. I partnered with universities to test their products and systems with in regards to weight loss, specifically with postmenopausal women. And then I also traveled around the US speaking and educating people on their products. But that really wasn't enough for me because during this time I was researching, how do I find moderation with my diet? How can I lose weight and keep those results? And I stumbled onto this concept of tracking your macros, basically eating a certain amount of protein, fat, and carbs a day. And you could eat whatever foods you wanted, right? And I had previously limited myself to this very small list of items, and I would feel so guilty for eating off of that list. But here I incorporated chocolate every day, and still reached my goal body weight and body fat percentage on the day of the show, and just killed this show. It was a pro show in Arizona. I won the overall, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had chocolate every day. I broke all the rules, and yet here I am
Yeah.
winning this, trying this new concept out. And I became obsessed with like tracking your macros and flexible dieting because it liberated me from diet hell. So I just knew I had to find a way to bring this to the masses. And what I was doing in research and development with my company at the time just really wasn't enough. You were stuck talking about just the nutritional products. But I wanted to preach this whole idea of flexible dieting. And so that's when I partnered with two other people to create this app. I wrote the algorithm for it, and it's even better than one-on-one coaching could have been because you're limited to how many clients you can take on at one time. But when writing this algorithm, I was able to reach tens of thousands of people at one time and help them learn about flexible dieting and track their macros and liberate themselves from their own diet hell. So that's how I got into nutrition, and that's how I stumbled on the concept of flexible dieting and then built this app.
I love that, and I love so much how you had that personal experience and struggle with your own nutrition and how you really sought out a solution for yourself and how you were like, "Okay, I know that other people are struggling with this too, so how can I help? Not only myself, but everyone else." And I love
Exactly.
that, and I love that you ate chocolate every day because, like, that's reality, you know? Like, people don't wanna feel so restricted, and when they do, they realize, "I can't be consistent with this forever," or you do end up having an eating disorder or some sort of
Exactly.
body dysphoria that you, like, can't get out of. And so I think that's, like,
Mhm.
a really important point to point out is just, like, having that flexibility with your eating and so that you feel like you can still enjoy yourself.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, it had gotten to the point I was so restrictive and I was so afraid to eat that when I would diet, I would literally like starve myself. And of course, when you do that, your appetite hormones get all wonky. And when you come off that again, as like you're not going to be able to do that forever, I just could not control myself. I was at the buffets. Like I would go to these national shows. I was in Vegas and I would go to the buffets afterwards. I'd be putting ice cream in the oatmeal. Like I'd be up there 4 or 5 times. I got to the point I made myself sick. I put myself in the hospital so many times. And the last time I gave myself this refeeding syndrome. And I actually damaged my intestinal tract. The weight of the food going from my stomach to my small intestines compressed some of those important arteries. And I was in the hospital for a few days. And that was a huge
Oh,
wake up call for me. And not that it gets necessarily that serious physically for a lot of people, but it really is mental torture to have that kind of feeling that you always have to be restricting and you don't know how to get in to feel good about yourself and in the body you want without doing these crazy things. So yeah,
yeah.
I was just really passionate about bringing the app to people, and fortunate that you guys partnered with us, and I was able to help with founding the Fit Body Nutrition app. Because I think together, when we're combining this nutrition with what you guys are doing with exercise, I think it's just going to be a game changer for people.
Oh, definitely. And I have been a user of Avatar first and now the Fit Body Nutrition app myself. And it definitely helped me after I started having kids. Like after I had my daughter, my first, who's almost 5 now, I could eat whatever I want back in the day. Like, I could work out enough where I felt like I could eat pretty much whatever I wanted. And then once you're okay, you gain 40 pounds with your pregnancy, and then you're trying to lose weight, get back to that pre-pregnancy, which we all know it's no like going back to that pre-pregnancy body. Your body has changed completely. But I realized, okay, I need to start tracking. I need to start eating more protein. I need to really figure out what am I fueling my body with right now? And at first for me, it was very much like I just wanted to be more aware. I wasn't trying to change anything at first. It was more like, let's track what I'm already doing. Let's see what the numbers are. Let's see what my macros are. And then let's adjust from there. And that's what I did. And that's really what worked for me. And I think that's what works for a lot of our
Yeah.
clients too, because if you haven't done any kind of tracking at all, and then someone says, hey, you're going to start eating 1600 calories a day. Here's your macros, like ready, set, go. That can be very overwhelming. But
Extremely.
I think like if you have that slow, steady approach and you really do look at it as a lifestyle, it can very much fit into your routine.
Exactly. I think you brought up a couple really important points there, several. But the first one being working into things slowly, not feeling like you have to do everything perfect all at once. I mean, that's a lot of pressure to do that. And just tracking, just logging your food and not even trying to change what you're eating brings so much awareness in. It's like, oh my gosh, like I'm eating this breakfast and I'm having waffles with syrup, and the syrup has so many more calories and so many more carbs than I even realized. Like my portions are completely out of control. People
Yeah.
have generally have no awareness about how much they're eating. I mean, I've had clients so many times swear up and down they're eating 1200 calories or they're eating 1500 calories. And then when they actually start logging their food and they discover, oh my gosh, I was eating 2,500. It's just
Right.
amazing how that happens. And studies have shown that when people bring awareness of what they're eating in without even trying to cut calories, just by logging their food, many times people will start to lose weight because you're becoming
Mhm.
aware of what you're eating and getting an
Yeah.
idea of what portion sizes your body needs.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And to the other extreme, I think sometimes what we see, especially in our older clientele, and an example of this would be like my mother. So my mother, she's approaching 60. She goes to Fit Body and she'll say like at the end of the day, "Oh, all I've had today is a protein shake." And I'm like, "You
Mhm.
can't lose weight. You cannot be in the shape that you want to be and support the strength training that you're doing at Fit Body. You cannot do that by restricting yourself to 800 calories a day." And she'll get to, the end
Mhm.
of the day, and she'll be like, "What have I even eaten today?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"No, you can't do that." And sometimes we'll have clients that they're not actually eating enough. They start tracking and they realize, wow, I can eat all of this and I can see
Uh-huh.
results. And I love it when that
Exactly.
happens because it's very much our way as coaches to say, like, we're not trying to starve you. We want you to feed your body. You have to be nourished in order for your
Mhm.
body to work properly and your metabolism to work. And you see
Exactly.
some of that today where it's like people think less is better and it's not that's not always the case.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Less is not always more. I love that.
Now,
Yeah.
one question I want to ask you because you have been in this world for so long. What are some like common misconceptions or myths about nutrition that you and weight loss that you have like frequently encountered?
Okay. It's so common for people to think that something other than calories is responsible for their lack of weight loss or their weight gain, that something else is going on there, like that their hormones are maybe messed up, or maybe
Mhm.
they're just eating too much sugar or carbs or something like that. And that is disrupting this whole balance. And the thing is, it's really not true, right? Like how much you eat versus how much you're burning, so calories in versus calories out, that whole equation holds true no matter what. But your hormones are linked with that, right? So if you're having some issue where some of your hormones are imbalanced, and well, if we talk about myths we can get into that a little bit later,
Yeah.
you may be burning slightly fewer calories, right? But more importantly, if appetite hormones are kind of wonky, you might be eating way more than you realize. So it impacts that equation directly. Like you can't unlink those two things, but it's not hormones in and of itself that's causing the issue. Like if you're only eating 800 calories a day, you are going to lose weight. Like if you're actually eating
Right.
that much, there's no way you won't. Metabolism can't slow down that much to block that from happening. So anytime weight loss is happening, it's because you're eating fewer calories than you're burning. So that's just something to keep in mind. And there's this whole idea that, sugar can stop weight loss. Like if you're eating too much sugar, that you have to eat this perfectly clean diet, which just isn't the case. So many times people are afraid of carbs and sugar. Like I've seen doctors even tell their clients, don't eat fruit, which is just insane. Nobody got fat
Yeah.
eating fruit. And people need to realize that carbs, no matter the source, like if you're eating a sweet potato versus pure table sugar, eventually they're going to end up as the same exact thing. They're going to end up as glucose and fructose in the body, the same exact molecule. Okay, it's just how quickly that breaks down. So, how much
Mhm.
energy you're getting is going to be the same. Now, their effect on hunger may be different, but if you're getting 100 calories from each, I mean, that 100 calories is going to be used in the same way. It's just how well can you control yourself later on. It really does come down to the amount of energy you're taking in versus what you're expending.
Yeah. The example of that I think of is, these sugary Starbucks drinks that people are loading up on in the mornings that have like 4 and 500 calories. Like I would much rather have like a big breakfast wrap than
Oh,
spend
yeah.
all my calories on a frappuccino. Like I don't that doesn't fill me up.
Oh, for sure. Exactly. That's the problem is that you get hungry really quickly. And those are, in a way, like, I don't know if I really like the term empty calories so much, but what you think about that is there aren't very many vitamins and minerals that are accompanying that. Like, you're not getting any fiber with that, right? So you're just wasting a whole bunch of your allotted calories for the day on that frappuccino. And that might be 1,000 calories. And maybe
Right.
if your goal is to lose weight, maybe you only need to be eating 1,700. Oh my gosh. So now I only have 700 calories left for the day. I've got to meet my vitamins and minerals. How am I going to do that when I've already blown so much on these empty calories and probably everything you have left to eat is protein after that, right? So you
Right.
just have to be smart with what you're eating and the distribution of that, But in general, when people are losing weight, it's because they really are eating fewer calories than what their body needs at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you know?
Now, I want to ask you a question that might ruffle a few feathers, and that
Okay.
is, what are your
I love that.
feelings on some of these very specific diets or eating patterns? And like, what are your personal thoughts on them? So, for example, like fasting, that's a big thing right now,
Mhm.
and like keto and low carb. Like, what are your thoughts on those? And which ones do you think are actually beneficial for someone who's like, getting started with their nutrition?
Yeah. Well, any diet has the capacity to work if it forces you to eat fewer calories than you're burning. So with keto, there's nothing magical about it. The way it's working is that you're getting a lot more protein, right? It's just restricting the types of foods you're eating to higher protein, higher fat foods, very, very low carb. Now, high protein tends to be really satiating. You're going to eat less
Mhm.
without even trying if you're eating a higher protein diet. Also, it changes the way your body uses fuel. So, since you're not getting carbs, you have to burn the fats. And that's going to put you in something called ketosis, where your body is running on these what's called ketone bodies. They're these little ketone
Mhm.
molecules. And those are extremely appetite suppressing as well. Insulin stays really low. So the power of this diet really comes down to this combination of the protein and ketones, where it makes it easier to eat a little bit less. So it can be a great diet. But will it automatically cause you to lose weight? No, some people can still overeat through that, right? Because
Mhm.
these tend to be higher calories that are in fat and protein. And also, it's
Right.
very restrictive. How many people are going to be able to stick with that for the rest of their life? And it's this set of rules that they have to live with. So I'm really not super crazy about anything that relies on a set of arbitrary rules about what you can and can't eat, because over the long term, it's usually just not very sustainable. And the ketogenic diet doesn't tend to be very sustainable, especially for people who are trying to work out and you're working out hard. A lot of times you need carbs for that activity. Otherwise, you're going to feel kind of tired. And that does depend
Mhm.
on the person. From person to person, it's a little bit different, but mostly your performance just isn't going to be as good. So I'm
Yeah.
not super crazy about that. Intermittent fasting, again, will it have the capacity to help you eat less? Well, yeah, skipping entire meals or entire days of eating likely will cause you to eat a little bit less. But is that
Right.
something you want to continue to do for the rest of your life? And will it necessarily cause you to eat less? No, some people can compensate and eat more and end up actually gaining weight on that. Others can have effects like headaches, had some adverse effects from it, headaches. Their performance in the gym just is terrible. And then you end up not burning as many calories in the gym, right? Because you're going into it fasted. And that can happen to people. So I do like things individualized. If it helps somebody to be able to eat less and they feel like that's sustainable and that can be done without as much hard work, I'm for that. But at the end of the day, people should be learning kind of what their body needs and how to eat less without relying on a strict set of rules that they can't follow for the rest of their life. At the end of the day, they're
Mhm.
going to have to come off that diet. And then what are they going to do? If they haven't
Right.
dieted in a way that's going to help them to continue to lose weight because it's not sustainable, then they're going to have to change their habits again and learn something completely different. So I'm a big proponent of um, tracking calories, maybe not forever, right? Not forever necessarily, but tracking calories,
Right.
specifically tracking macros to make sure that you're getting enough protein with those calories, just because it has so many other great benefits in the body, which we can talk about like in a little bit if you want to.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I'm a huge proponent of the flexible dieting and really learning what types of how many calories are in different foods, which foods are high in protein, understanding how to eat. And that helps you learn about portion sizes. And then eventually you can come off that and you have those skills for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I love that so much, and I too am right there with you, like, I'm not going to myself, like, do anything that I can't sustain for a lifetime that's going to fit into my lifestyle, nor am I going to recommend that to any of our clients because I think you're so right, it's like, we can't fast forever. We can't have a high protein diet forever. Like I've loved carbs so much. I have to start my morning with protein and carbs. I can't imagine just eating this like high fat, high protein diet all the time and not having any carbs for a lifetime. And so why
Right.
put myself through that if I cannot sustain it? It just doesn't make any sense. Which leads me to like my next question for you would be what would you recommend to someone who okay, they're new at the gym, they wanna start tracking their nutrition, and they want the quick fix, but they understand that they can't have the quick fix. They need to look at this as a lifestyle approach. What are some tips on ways to get started? What are some things that you can easily do to start tracking or just, like, start focusing on your nutrition?
So I would advocate going to the grocery store and getting some foods that are a little bit healthier, that are a little bit higher in protein, a little bit lower in calories. That's something you can easily do, is stock your house from the start with things that are going to enhance your performance and that are going to keep you fuller longer. And then I do recommend tracking, not necessarily trying to hit any targets, just kind of see what you've been eating and be
Yeah.
honest with the portion sizes and how much you're eating and see kind of where you're at calorie wise in like in the ballpark of calories, just get a feel for what you've been doing before you try to change anything. And then start incorporating some of those healthy snacks that you've bought. Make sure you're buying, importantly, fruits and vegetables. They're going to be high fiber. They're going to help you eat less without necessarily trying. Protein products are huge. Most people have no idea that they aren't eating enough protein or that their protein distribution is a little bit weird. A lot of Americans will have like, maybe oatmeal at breakfast or something like that, not add anything with protein to it, and they're getting a ton of carbs, but not very much protein, maybe a little bit in a sandwich for lunch, like 15 grams. And then at dinner, maybe they're getting like, they're doing a steak or chicken or something, and then they're getting like 60 grams. So evening that distribution can help a little bit. But first, I would start
Mhm.
with kind of stocking your house with the things that you want and then getting slowly started in the gym. But you want to be able to
I
build
love
some
that.
habits and have an understanding of what you're putting in your body.
Oh, definitely, definitely, and I think just making those healthy swaps have been important for us in our household, like, we have 2 young children, and they're snacking all day long, and, like, now I'm more aware of, "Okay, what do these snacks actually have in them? Like, how much sugar do these have? Like, how much nutritious ingredients are they actually consuming?" And just being more aware, has helped us a lot, and it's fun to try new things, try new health foods, and try new recipes. I
Yeah.
love we love doing that.
Yeah, the swaps, like you said, there's some super easy swaps you can make, like looking at what's in your drinks, for example, like if you are having frappuccinos or if you're having real soda, or even like juice,
Right.
right? That's loaded with calories and sugar that won't, not a lot of fiber, probably none, that aren't
Oh,
necessarily going to keep you full. So
definitely.
making the swaps for like low or no calorie drinks, looking at your condiments, I think that's a good place to start. And then just focusing on protein too. I'm trying to get more and in every meal.
Yeah. Now, I want to ask because we talk about, mental health at the gym a lot too, not just our physical health and how, they all are connected. Can you discuss like your own personal opinion and experience with like the impact of stress and sleep and other like lifestyle factors that can contribute to weight management and like how our clients should be addressing those different topics?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing with having a lot of stress, and a lack of sleep or poor sleep quality is the effect that it has on your appetite. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it slows your metabolism." Stress doesn't necessarily slow your metabolism. A lack of sleep, poor sleep quality can, to a small degree, but it's mostly the fact that these things make it very difficult for you to control your intake. So if you're constantly stressed out, depending on the person, a lot of people will overeat. They'll turn to food to kind of eat emotionally, or they'll just be so busy that they won't have the time to choose options that are lower calorie. Or maybe you found yourself doing this where you've come home from a really stressful day at work. You sit down in front of the TV, you're rewarding yourself with food and you're eating, but you're not even really tasting it and no really being aware of what you're doing or how much you're eating. You're just eating because it feels good in that moment. You feel like almost like it's a reward and you deserve it. You just want to unwind maybe in front of the TV or with your family. Before you know it, you've eaten like 1,500 calories. So that's the biggest issue with stress. We could talk about hormones and how that alters stress and everything, but it doesn't impact metabolism like people would think. And then on
Mhm.
the other side of the coin, the sleep stuff. I mean, yes, poor quality sleep and a reduction in the actual duration of sleep will impact how your body produces insulin, and will cause your blood sugar to run high. There are things that are going to happen with that. But the biggest issue is that you end up eating more. Your appetite hormones are a little bit wonky. Like ghrelin might be higher. You just feel more hungry. And also, if you're sleeping less, there's more time throughout the day to eat if you're up more. And people tend to have
Mhm.
poor impulse control. The reward centers of their brain light up more easily. And so they tend to soothe themselves with food. You have the combination of stress and lack of sleep, and that's deadly for any diet.
Yeah. Why is
Yeah,
it that it's so hard to have self-control, like, after 7 PM? Like, it's
right.
so
I
hard.
mean, it really is. Exactly. That's when most people end up blowing their diets. And
Yeah,
for me, I know personally, it's that I've done so well all day, and you get to the point you just need a break from that. And I just want to soothe
right.
myself with food. That's what happens to me. I want to reward myself for, a long day and just turn off my brain.
Exactly. Exactly, yeah, and I wanna ask, to go on a personal note there, what has been the most challenging thing for you with a new baby, as a new mom, with your, like, nutrition and your fitness routine? What's been the most challenging part? Or maybe, like,
Yeah.
what is challenging that you didn't think would be challenging?
Well, it's there's so many changes and this is my first child too. When you bring a baby home, and I think the fact that they have to eat every 2 hours and they're up all night, right? Like people are just dragging. Like the last thing you want to do is think about what you're eating, right? You're so sleep deprived. And I think getting to the gym, like that's
Right.
another thing. So you're eating more, your activity levels are lower. I think getting on a routine, there is no routine anymore. Your life revolves around another person. And so trying to find the motivation to even do it is also hard because you're trying to enjoy your time with your little one. That time only lasts so long. Also, like for me, I know like there was some other external events that were very stressful, and there's a little bit of depression. Like a lot of people suffer from postpartum depression that comes with that. Not that you aren't thankful that you have this new little life to support, but it is such a big change, and so you can get a little bit more depressed. And I think that when you're depressed, it's harder to feel motivated to want to do anything for
Mm,
yourself. I know for me,
yeah.
I had a C-section and then I had another serious surgery a few months later. So I couldn't get to the gym. Right. And so there was this idea of, well, my activity is terrible anyway. All my muscle is atrophied. I was bedridden for a while. Like it was just really hard to get motivated to eat right when I also couldn't exercise. So that's a whole nother set
Mm,
of challenges that women may have as if how their health is after the surgery. But interestingly for me, as soon as I got cleared to go back to the gym, I started making time for that. And I wasn't necessarily motivated right at first, but
yeah.
discipline trumps motivation. Like you're not always going to feel motivated. So I had to get
Yeah.
a routine in order and be disciplined enough to stick to that routine. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the gym for an hour a day, 5 days a week, wherever I can fit that in, wherever it fits with that schedule with this new baby. And so as soon as I started doing that and I started building some of my strength back, then I was more motivated to start looking more into my nutrition, making sure I'm getting enough protein and enough calories to support those workouts. And it just snowballed from there. So like I started accruing
Yeah.
these small wins, and I think that's what people should be doing. They shouldn't be trying to make all these changes at once, try to do everything perfectly, um, like the pressure to lift weights or do that. If you can just get out on a walk for a little while, accrue that small win. If you can set a goal of drinking, maybe like close to a gallon of water a day, do that and you'll get that small one. Then you'll be more motivated to stick to things, but also rely on the routine and discipline. And so for me,
Mm,
like I'm already at my pre-pregnancy weight, and my strength, and even more important, body fat, right? Because my
yeah.
strength and muscle I've been building back. And so that's, been helpful though to accrue the small wins and have that routine going.
I love how you mentioned the snowball effect because I do think it's hard for someone that's new in the gym, especially at Fit Body or clients. It's like they don't understand where the motivation comes from. They're motivated in the beginning, but then they're asking themselves like, "Why am I here?" They're doubting their ability, and I always try to explain like once you start making those strides, once you get on the scale and you see, "Wow, I've lost 5 pounds," or you notice you gained a pound of muscle, or you start to see anything, any glimpse of change in yourself, it helps you build momentum. And once the
Exactly.
momentum is rolling, it's so easy to keep going, but you have to allow yourself that time to get there. Like you have to put in that work, you have to put in the reps in order to get to that point where you're starting to see changes. And from there, it is easier to keep going, but it takes time in the
Mhm.
beginning. And
Yep.
I think that's really challenging with your nutrition or with your fitness or both.
Yeah.
Which is a segue to my next question for you is how do you feel about someone who's going to the gym, but they're not focusing on their nutrition, but they want to lose weight? And then how do you feel about someone who's focusing on their nutrition, but they're not going to the gym? Do you think that you can do one or the other, or do they have to happen both at the same time?
Well, okay. Well, this is going back to having to do both at the same time. I don't think you should pressure yourself necessarily to have to start both at the same time. Like that's overwhelming. Again,
Mhm.
that's going back to that whole I
Right.
need to do things perfectly and really just get started. Just get started. Put one foot in front of the other, even if that means just starting one. It would be great
Yeah.
ultimately to do both, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's first start with the nutrition side. So, if you're just exercising, and a lot of people, their reason for exercising is largely driven by changing their body composition or changing the way that they look. They're after a certain
Mhm.
body. And when they're not getting seen any changes or results, but yet they're busting their ass in the gym, like multiple times a week, they're going to be really frustrated. They're going to feel like, why am I even doing this? Like they're spinning their wheels. And that's probably going to happen if they're not looking at their nutrition at all, because it's really hard to out exercise a bad diet. You know, what, like I was on the Stairmaster the other day, working my butt off. I'm on there for 20 minutes doing interval training. I burned like a whole 150 calories doing that. That's like a couple Oreos, right? Like,
Yeah.
or like a half of a bowl of oatmeal, like of what people would normally eat. That's not a lot of food if you're just exercising to burn off all this extra food you're eating. Like
Mhm.
you'd have to be Michael Phelps. You'd have to be doing a whole bunch
Right.
of exercise, and most people aren't going to do that. And so it's really common for people not to see changes. So I do advocate like eventually starting to look at what you're eating, and you can start slow with that, but that's why I advocate using like the Fit Body Nutrition app for your clients, so that they can start working on that side of things, even if it's starting slow and just tracking and gaining awareness of what they're eating. And then on the other side of
Yeah.
it, there's just those who um, let's see, like those who just want to use diet. We talked about that, who just want to use diet, and they can be successful, and they will be. I've seen it before
Yeah.
in losing weight. You can be a lot more successful um, when you're controlling your diet. That's the truth of the matter. However, it's what people don't understand is it's really, really important to build muscle and to improve your heart health and get blood flowing around your body. That's really important just in overall health and mental well-being. Like there's this whole mental side to
Mhm.
it. But if we're just talking about the physical side, there is an underappreciated role of muscle in disease and health. So there's this inverse relationship between the amount of muscle you have and your odds of dying or getting ill from chronic diseases like diabetes, or having heart attacks and heart issues. So meaning that the more muscle you have, the less likely you are to die or develop one of these diseases. And there's a reason
Mhm.
for that,
Yeah.
because muscle is actually an endocrine organ. And we didn't realize this until about 15 years ago. We've known that fat can secrete hormones and factors that talk to the rest of the body. But we did not know that muscle could do this. I mean, every time your muscle contracts after a workout, you have these factors that are released that help to control inflammation and send messages around the body. So if you have more muscle and you're working out, your body is going to produce more of its own antioxidants to fight inflammation. Right. There's all these things that happen as you're remodeling muscle, and even as you're pushing blood around the body, doing a harder workout. That's going to help with your health and your physical and even your cognitive decline, like cognitive abilities. So
Yeah.
exercise is super important for that. And like, yes, like I see people lose weight with just diet, but again, they're not building muscles, they're not getting all the benefits of that. And when you have more muscle, you're able to eat more, right? And not just because having muscle helps you eat more, like helps you burn more calories when you're sitting. It helps you burn way more calories when you're active. That's where the real magic
Mhm.
is. Like if you have twice as much muscle, you're going to be burning way more calories, both sitting and when
Yeah.
working out. That adds up throughout the day. So that's going to help you even be able to eat more. And let's be honest, you look better. Like you're more shapely when you have muscle, as opposed to somebody who just uses diet, doesn't build muscle, doesn't exercise at all. So you'd be missing out on a whole ton of benefits of being able to train your body to eat more, to being able to train your body to produce more antioxidants, healthier aging, and even increasing insulin sensitivity for those people who are starting to become type 2 diabetic, who are starting to lose control of their blood sugar. And this happens to the sedentary population because when you're sedentary, your muscles aren't sucking in sugar, right? So the receptors that take in those sugars start to die off. Like they start to decline. Your body's like, oh, I'm not exercising. My muscle doesn't need to take these carbs in. And so those receptors start to downregulate, and people start to become less sensitive to insulin. They start to get diabetes. But when you're working all your muscles, you're training your body to use all that fuel. And then your blood sugar
Mhm.
is going to be lower. Your body's going to be more sensitive to insulin. So there's all these health benefits that come from exercising. I cannot state the effects of exercise enough, not just for body composition, but for metabolism, for health. Just so, yes, both of them are very, very important in different ways.
I love it. I hope everyone listening right now is inspired to go lift some weights today. I love it.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone that, they come to the gym and they say, "Well, I wanna be toned, but I'm scared of being bulky," because we do hear that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Women
Yeah.
think that if they lift heavy weights in the gym, they're gonna be big and bulky, and
Right.
it's like, I try to explain to people why they won't, but I
I
wanna
know.
hear, like, your explanation on that and what you would tell
Yeah.
someone.
As somebody who's been trying to get bulky my entire life, you're not just gonna pick up a couple weights and end up being bulky. That just does not happen. Most of the time, what these women are seeing is fitness show competitors who are on drugs. It's very, very
Right.
difficult for a woman to put on so much muscle that it actually looks like that, or in their eyes that it doesn't
Yeah,
look good. That's like, that's performance enhancing drugs usually.
yeah,
It takes a long time to build that kind of muscle up, but also I think what we need to focus on with these clients is that eating the right amount of protein, lifting weights, it's not necessarily to build giant muscles, right? Like
mm-mm,
people are afraid to eat protein because they think that all of a sudden they're going to build all this muscle. Well, no,
yeah,
the whole idea of eating more protein largely is to improve satiety. It helps you eat less without trying as hard. And that's what we're really after, losing weight, right? It helps you to burn more calories because protein is so expensive to process. So your metabolism is going to be like going up. And what woman doesn't want that? So we have to
right,
appeal with when we talk about protein to all these other benefits of how it's going to help with what it is they're looking for, but also help them understand that building muscle is really, really difficult, and it just doesn't happen like that.
yeah,
And so, like, and lifting weights is going to help you look better. It's going to help you shape your body. This idea of getting toned, everybody, I've heard this like 10 years ago. How do I tone a muscle? You can't really tone a muscle. What's happening is you're building that muscle so it's a little bit bigger while you're simultaneously losing body fat and leaning out, so that now you have
right,
definition and it shows. There's no such thing like necessarily as toning a muscle. So
yeah,
you do want to build a little bit of muscle to have shape, but it always ends up looking good. So that's
yeah.
how I would explain it to them.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love how you have, like, all the science behind everything. It's so great. Like, you have that experience with your bikini training but then
Yeah.
also you have, like, this background with the science of it all, and you can explain it in such a great way. I love it.
Yeah.
One last question I wanna ask you, well, actually, I have 2 questions. So first, I wanna ask, is there anything that our clients should know or that you would wanna tell our clients about the Fit Body coaching app? It maybe for someone who has never had experience using it before. Is there anything that you would leave us with that on that?
Well, again, I think it's great just to have an awareness of what you're eating. A lot of people are afraid to start using these apps, and they're afraid, like they're overwhelmed about the idea of tracking, locking all their food. They're because it sounds like so much work, but it
Right.
really isn't very hard. The first couple days, I always recommend to clients scan in all the foods you normally eat. Don't try to hit any targets, just use the app, use the barcode scanner. It's super easy. Like you're taking like a picture of your foods. You're just holding your camera up in
Yeah.
front of the barcode on your foods, and it automatically, then you can save them all to your favorites, and they're easy to add later. You can even save entire meals or entire days of eating so that with one click you just throw that in your log, because we're all creatures of
Mhm.
habit. We're
Yeah.
ultimately going to be eating the same types of foods and the same meals over and over. So if you just do this for a week, oh my gosh, it's going to take you literally 2 or 3 minutes a day to log everything. And then you have all this understanding for that little amount of work that 1 to 2 weeks that you had to put in. Now you're going to have all this understanding of like how many calories are in the different types of foods you're eating, which ones are rich in protein and better for you. What's a normal serving size looks like something that you might say, oh, this is only 100 calories. This is a really tiny meal. Oh my gosh, it's like 500. It's huge. That's
Yeah.
a skill that you take with you the rest of your life. You don't have to rely on anybody else now to create meal plans for you and do all that, because you're learning about things yourself. And it's okay to start out that way if you're getting meal plans, because you're learning a little bit that way too. But eventually, if you're transitioning to using the app and logging things yourself, those are skills you take with you for the rest of your life. So I would highly recommend that people do that. Use the barcode scanner, scan in your foods, do it for 1 or 2 weeks, and your life will be changed. I promise you, things are going to look very, very different. Do not get overwhelmed. Don't worry about
Right.
trying to hit any targets. Just start logging, and everything will come naturally from there.
I love it. That's such a great tip for all of our listeners. You heard it from the queen herself of nutrition, of the Fit Body Coaching app. Just start logging what you're doing now, and that's the best way to get started. So
Yeah.
I like to ask all of my guests, Katie, one last question, and that is, what does beyond the scale mean to you? What does living life beyond the scale mean to you?
So I think that so many people are tied to just a number. That all this emphasis is put on the number on the scale that they want to be at. Like if they want to reach 130 pounds, like that's everything to them. But um, what are they really after with that? Well, they're after happiness, feeling good in their skin. But just in general, feeling happier. And I'll be the first to tell you, I've achieved my dream number many, many times, and it has never made me more happy. In fact, usually I'm less happy. So looking beyond the scale and trying to figure out what is going to make you happy and set your life up in that way, whether it's focusing on your relationships, just getting a routine like where you're going to the gym and you're getting stronger, putting your focus on something other than the scale, the things that are going to help make you happy. And having a routine is so huge for me because otherwise I find that I don't get as much done in a day. And then like, let's face it, like I find that I'm not as happy. Like if I'm not productive,
Mhm.
I don't feel good about
Yeah.
myself. I'm not happy. Like a hard day's work, it's important to be happy with that. So that's one of the things that I try to do and focus on relationships. Another thing with the number on the scale is it really doesn't reflect how much muscle you have or how much body fat you have. It's just this arbitrary number. Like I've had clients that are 20 pounds heavier and look way better and feel way better and are stronger and they have more muscle, they have less body fat. And it's not the number, the dream number that they thought it was going to be. So I just think people need to look beyond these numbers that are on a scale and find them what
Mm.
makes them happy and don't necessarily have like everything revolve around that number.
I love that so much. My dream number that I used to have in my head was my, before I was married, pre-pregnancy number that I thought I would just be at my entire life. And then after I had children and I really understood with Fit Body the importance of building muscle and what it could do for me and my body and my energy, it's my that number, like, I never wanna be back at that number. That
Yeah,
number is so much higher now, and I feel so much better now, and I too try to focus so much more on, like, how it makes me feel than what that number is on the scale because it doesn't define you. And I say that a lot on the podcast. It's like the only person that set that standard for that number, like, what that number means to you is you. Like, there is no
hmm,
one that is ever gonna say, "Hey, how much do you weigh? Oh, really? I think you should weigh this." It's really your own standard that you're setting for yourself. And so it's like, as long as you're like comfortable with the way you feel and the way you show up every day and the way you look in the mirror, then don't worry about
exactly.
that number. It does not define you.
Yep. Well
Well,
said.
Katie, thank you so much for joining us today. I know our listeners are going to get incredible value out of this episode. And if you're listening to this either before or after, Katie is about to be at our Fit Body World Conference and talk to us all about nutrition and all of the knowledge that she has. And I'm so excited to see you there. Where can our listeners find you?
So I'm most active on my Instagram. I put up stories quite a bit. But and my handle is the fit dietitian. But it's underscores between every word. So the underscore fit underscore dietitian. And then I'm also on Facebook. You can find me just under my name, Katie Coles.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. As always, please make sure to check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify, and share with all your friends. Thanks again. And until next time.